Chapter 19. Danny. I groaned when my alarm went off because I was not a fan of mornings. At all. That being said, I turned it off and jumped out of bed because I wanted time to casually chat with my mom before Alex showed up. I couldn't guarantee he wasn't going to run into the kitchen and hijack the narrative, so I had to get to her first. "Good morning," I said to my mom as I went into the kitchen and straight for the cupboard. "Are we ever going to use our kitchen in the apartment upstairs?" "I'm sure we will," she said. "But this one is bigger and brighter, and the cabinets are always stocked. Since I haven't really grocery shopped since we moved here, I gravitate toward the one with food." "Okay, fair," I said, pulling out a little bag of Hostess powdered dinettes. "Can I have some of these?" "Sure," she said. "I just want to make sure they aren't Grandpa's," I said, because my mom never bought teensy trash donuts that were delicious. "He's your grandpa, so I'm sure he wants you to help yourself to anything in the pantry," she said. I took the white bag over to the table and sat down, still a little unsure if I should be eating the sugary donuts. "By the way," my mom cleared her throat and looked weird. "Have you talked to Dad lately? Is something going on with him?" "Why?" I asked, feeling like my stomach suddenly weighed more than usual. "I don't know. He sent me this voice memo where he was being really nice, saying that we are adults and that, because of you, he wants to make sure we have a good relationship." "That sounds nice," I said, instantly stressed, because what was he up to? Was he trying to butter her up so he could talk to her about me possibly moving? That couldn't be it, because he'd hung up on me for not loving the idea, right? "It does, but it sounds a little too nice," she said. "Dad can be nice," I said, even though I wholeheartedly agreed with her suspicion. "Bullshit," my grandpa said with a fake cough as he walked into the kitchen. That irritated me, though Mom beat me to any response. "Dad, don't." "I was just coughing," he said, going over to the cupboard and pulling out his mug, the same old North Stars mug he'd used for my entire life. I don't know what got into me when I asked, "When was the last time you saw him? Like 5 years ago? And before that, you maybe talked to him once, twice a year? Do you really know him?" Though I was annoyed with my grandpa, the ask was sincere. He crossed his arms and looked surprised by my questions. "I know enough, trust me." "Okay, ... "Are you eating my donuts?" he asked with his eyebrows down. "Mom said they were for everyone." "She was right, if everyone means me," he growled. "You're not going to share your donuts with your granddaughter?" my mom asked, looking irritated by the entire conversation. "Not if she's going to defend that jackass you used to be married to." "Language, Dad," my mom said before turning to me, and then, anticipating my sarcastic response, quickly blurted out, but back to my initial question. "You didn't have any unusual conversations with Dad or anything?" "I've known him long enough to know that when he gets all nice like this, it's usually because he's setting me up for something." "No," I lied, injecting my voice with all sorts of casual. My stomach knotted with guilt as I looked at her, because I loved my mom more than anyone in the world. I shouldn't be lying to Bear. But I also wasn't going to bring up the conversation Wed had, because how would that even go? "Hey, Dad was trying to see if I would move to Omaha and leave you behind, and I didn't exactly tell Bim no, because I want Bim to move back to the States. ... Yeah, no." I was beyond happy when I heard the sound of Alex's noisy car pulling into the driveway, saving me from having to lie anymore. I hopped up from the table, grabbing my backpack. "I don't need a ride today because Alec is picking me up," I blurted out, opening the fridge to grab a Red Bull. "What?" my mom asked, looking surprised. "Who the hell is Alec?" Grandpa Mick asked in that not a question tone of his. "Alec Bercheski, Sarah and John's boy," my mom said, still looking at me like she was trying to figure things out. He took off his readers. "Who?" I wanted to roll my eyes, but I didn't. "Zeus? The one you said reminds you of, like Connors or Krampus or Cronwall?" he said, closing the newspaper with a sigh. "Nicholas Cronwall." They both backpedal hit. A knock sounded at the kitchen door, interrupting my grandpa's hockey briefing. I'd hoped to run outside and avoid this, but here we were. I opened the door, and once again, I was unprepared for Alex's appearance. He was wearing black joggers and a Southview jersey. Nothing unusual, but his size kept surprising me. I was 5'7", yet he seemed to be like a foot taller than me, and a filled-out tall boy, not some gangly stick guy. "Good morning, Collins," he said, grinning down at me. He smelled good, like he'd just stepped out of the shower, and I put my hand on my stomach to quell whatever riot was happening when he smiled at me that way. "Good morning, Bercheski," I said. "We were just talking about you." "Obsessed already," he teased, his eyes moving all over my face. "It's only an act," I reminded myself, because 1 second of his flirting was already showing me just how powerful it could be. Dear God. "It was him, actually," I said, pointing to the table. "My grandpa thinks you backpedal hit like a cornball." It was comical, the way Alex's face immediately changed when he looked at my grandpa. The teasing went away and he looked like a net. Voo little boy, like a kid who had no idea what to say. His throat moved around to swallow, and my eyes got a little stuck on his neck. Grandpa Mick shook his head like I was pathetic. "For God's sake, one said you hit like Cronwall," he corrected. Oh. Alec looked like he definitely didn't know what to say when he was being complimented by my grandpa. "Thank you." "Hey kid," my mom said to Alec with a big smile. "Thanks for being her chauffeur today." "I figured you needed a break from this one," he said, again with the cute teasing. "We should go," I said, looking back and forth between him and my mom, who was freaking beaming. "You've got everything you need?" she asked. "You have lunch money?" "Yep," I said, noticing the way Alec looked at me like he knew one was pocketing her money and avoiding the cafeteria entirely. "Text me later so I know how things are going," my mom said. "Pull." "Ing me in for a big hug." Well, I took a deep breath, feeling like a light-tail kid as I inhaled the Exernity shed worn my entire life and wished I could just stay home, with her all day long. "You guys ready for tonight?" my grandpa asked, zero warmth in his tone. I pulled back from my mom as Alec gave Grandpa Mick a nod. "Egan's playing good hockey right now, but as long as we stick to our game, there shouldn't be a problem." "Right, another game tonight," I groaned. "Please tell me there won't be another pep rally." "No, that one covered the rest of the season, so you're safe. Thank God." Alec held open the door for me as we left, and as soon as the cold air blasted me in the face, I was filled with nervousness because what was I doing? Like, was I seriously going to do this? Also, what the hell was Alec driving? It was a silver car, but the bumper and one of the side panels were black, like they'd been taken from another vehicle, and he was missing the passenger mirror. I didn't care about cars, but I would have thought someone as slick and smooth as Zeus would drive something monster-sized that he called a chickmobile or something. "Don't judge Burrito," he said, as I opened the passenger door. "She isn't pretty, but she's eyes more than I've got, so no judgment," I said. There hadn't been a reason for me to get my license at Ramstein, so I was still like a middle schooler with no wheels and no prospects. "Good morning, Danny," I heard, and when I turned, I saw Benji standing beside his running Maserati in his driveway, smiling. "Oh, hey, Ben," I said, uncomfortable after what had happened the night before. "Hey there, Benji," Alex said, giving my neighbor a total Dickens smirk. "Do all the cadets have douchebag cars, or is it just you? Can't all drive pieces of shit held together by duct tape, bro." "I'm not your bro, asshole," Alex said before climbing into the car and slamming the door. Neither of us spoke as he backed out of the driveway, and I was stunned for a second to hear Dopamine playing in his car because I loved that song. As far as I knew, it wasn't a radio hit, so did that mean, did he like it too? Focus, Danny? I scrambled to get my words together to ease whatever tension was rolling off Alec thanks to Benji, but also because I'd come up with my own demands for this fake dating situation. I opened my mouth to start when he said, "By the way, are you okay?" Looked over at his profile while he kept his eyes on the road, having zero idea what he was talking about. "What?" He shot me a look for a brief second, his dark eyes moving over my face, before he went back to the road. "Whatever the Colonel did to make you upset yesterday. Are you good now?" Yeah, I suppose," I said with a shrug, because I was shocked that he was asking. "He's just being, Dad, I guess." Alec looked at me like he understood, but before he could derail me further with unexpected concern, I jumped in. "So listen, I've been thinking about your proposition, and I have a counteroffer." "Oh," he glanced over again, and my face must have been intimidating. Or something, because he said, "Oh God." Yes, you probably should call out to him. I barely slept at all last night because I couldn't stop thinking about the way Alex said people would for sure find out about what the coaches had walked in on in the locker room. If that was true, I was screwed. Because since Alec was this big popular guy that half the girls in the school wanted to date, a rumor about me being with him in the locker room was going to get me a lot of hate. So the game of pretend was absolutely necessary, if I was going to stand a chance at not becoming a pariah. But I was only going to feel safe if he did it my way. Here's the thing. As much as I don't want to do this, I feel like there's no way for me to not do it. He looked surprised. Really? You're seriously going to help me? This isn't for you, I said, making sure he knew I wasn't at his fake girlfriend beck and call. The sad reality is that I'm going to be part of Aramore now. People are probably already gossiping about what they think was going on in the locker room. Yeah, probably, he agreed, which made my stomach drop. I didn't want it to be true. So, to your point last night, I'd much prefer them to think that we are childhood sweethearts who reconnected, as opposed to me being cast as the new girl who's canoodling with hockey players in the locker room in her very first week. Did you seriously just say canoodling? He said with a smirk. Whatever, you get my point. Can you please focus here? Fine, he said. So you're saying the game of pretend works for you too, then? Yeah, but I'm going to need something more, I said, nervous because there was a good chance he was going to refuse. What is it? He asked, turning onto the street where the school was, which meant I needed to speak quickly. Well, we can still be super casual, but I'm going to need this fake relationship to last until I say it's over, I said, then quickly added, not as a power trip thing, but I just need... You really are obsessed with me, he said with another smat as half smile, and I was glad he was joking. It was good he was feeling funny. No, but I need you to agree to this, I said. I want to have the final say in the breakup timeline. I want you to agree to stay with me until I say so, even if that keeps us together for a long time. Like, even ... until graduation. He made a noise like he thought I was kidding before he slowed at the stoplight and turned his full attention to me. You want to be my fake girlfriend for 3 months? I don't want that. I said defensively. But it might be necessary? How would it be? Because the girl in a breakup always gets the bad rap, okay? I snapped, hating the truth of it. You're offering me this social protection as a new person, where one get to go everywhere and be part of your magical friend group, blah blah blah. But what happens if you decide to fake dump me in a few weeks and I haven't had a chance to make my own friends yet? Then your friends can start trashing me, and it might end up being worse on my end than if we'd never done it. My friends aren't holes. They wouldn't do that, he said, brushing it off like I was ridiculous. Oh, they definitely would, I insisted, knowing from experience just how quickly people could turn. But the bottom line is, I'm not going to do this unless I have your guarantee that it's not over until I say it's over. Could I sound like a bigger psycho? But his eyebrows were scrunched together. What if one of us wants to go out with someone else? I knew this would be the problem. Zeus, the party boy, wasn't going to accept the idea of potentially not being able to chase girls for the next few months. No, it's not ideal, but it's the only way. We can't just start and see how it goes, he asked. This is the only option. Not to play the devil's advocate for you, he said, sounding like he thought I was being ridiculous. But how do you know I'm not going to agree to this and then dump your ass anyway in a month if you start annoying me? Nice. Because if you do that, I said, digging deep for my badass bravery. Tell everyone, including my grandpa and every hockey dude he knows, that it was all a lie in order to help your image. Whoa. His head came around for a quick second, and I could tell I'd shocked him. You'd seriously do that? I mean, I wouldn't want to, I said with a shrug, feeling like world's biggest demanding jerk, but knowing it was the only way. He said, looking back at the road, and I wished I knew what he was thinking. Are we doing this or not? When we finally got to school and started walking toward the door, he still hadn't said anything, and it was killing me. Did he agree to my demands? But when he grabbed the handle to the front door, I got my answer. Let me ask you this, he said quietly, looking over his shoulder to make sure no one was close. Do you want to soft launch this thing or go hard, so we're doing it? I asked, the cold wind sending a shiver up my spine. Yeah, he said, those dark eyes on mine. So how do you want to play it? I had no idea exactly what he was asking, because we were walking into a public school building. It wasn't like hard launch could mean much, right? I guess that's your call. All right. His jaw did a little flex thing as he looked at me, and then he pulled open the door and gestured for me to walk in front of him. So? I said quietly, glancing over at him as I walked through the door he was holding. What do you want to do? What I always want to do, he said. Go hard. E looked down when his hand grabbed mine, when he linked all 5 of his fingers and all 5 of mine. My eyes moved up to his face, and he was watching me like he was waiting for my next move. Somehow I sensed chat if I didn't like this, he would totally back off, and I didn't know what to do, because something about him holding my hand scared me. The school was already noisy, with everybody arriving and hanging aura in the hall, and my heart started beating a little bit faster. What were people going to think? What was going to happen? Did I really want to do this? The panic started rising again. But then his fingers flexed, squeezing mine, and it felt like a reassurance. I gave him a tiny nod, my wordless attempt at letting him know I was all in on going hard. "Let's do this, Collins," he murmured. And then he started walking, pulling me alongside him. I nervously let him tug me along, hyper-aware of people looking in our direction, because he was holding my hand like my boyfriend. This was a statement. And then he went harder. "By the way," he said, yanking me a little closer as we walked. It was playful, flirtatious even, as he gave me a teasing look and said, "I like this coat. It's cute." "You like this coat?" I asked, looking down at it. "I do. It reminds me of the one you were wearing in your Utah Christmas photo. The sheep jacket from 3rd grade. Are you kidding?" I asked around a laugh. I forgot all about that. I loved that coat. "It's got the same kind of fluffiness," he said, releasing my hand long enough to grab my sleeve and sort of yank me in his direction. "Bah, what's really ridiculous is that scarf." He nodded his head toward the huge knit scarf around my neck. "You dress like you're in Antarctica." "Because it feels like Antarctica here," I said. "I think I've been froze since the second we rolled into town." "So soft," he said, shaking his head like I was ridiculous. "What's so soft?" I heard as Vinny and Richie came out of nowhere. Alex slowed and turned in their direction, which meant I slowed too. "She is," he said, bumping his shoulder against mine and smiling. "Danny dresses like it's 50 below all the time and runs for the doors whenever she's outside. Soft as hell." He whispered the last words, slowly, teasingly, his breath tickling my ear. "Jesus, you'll get used to it," Vinny said to me, his eyebrow lifting as Richie bit his lip to keep from smirking at this obvious display of flirtation. Alec gave me a look that was so laced with something that I felt my cheeks get hot. Even as I knew this was all for show, butterflies went wild in my stomach, because of the way he was watching me. Holy God, Alec at full power is a lot to handle. "Listen," I said abruptly and a little too loudly, "I need to go to my locker because I don't want to be late, so I'll see you later." I wasn't sure if I was talking to Alec or all three of them. "Lunch in the library?" he asked, his eyes on mine as he reached out a big hand and grabbed the end of my scarf. Our gazes stayed locked as he slowly unlooped the yarn, his knuckles grazing my skin as he casually unwrapped my neck. "What is B doing?" Shivers slid down my spine, a shiver that was either from the cool air suddenly touching my throat, or from the way he was audaciously peeing away one of my layers while looking at me that way. I couldn't be sure which, but he was daring me with his eyes, wordlessly challenging me to rope and to have recognized that expression anywhere. He might be Zeus now, but my little friend Alec had given me that look 100 times, usually in the context of "you won't," while waiting to see if I would. So raised my chin, snatched the scarf from his fingers, and said, "It's a date, Zeus.